Hey, and welcome to the Review Tuesday. My name's Ruben, and this is my review for Lost in Space Season 3, the final season. It's finally here. It's been a while. It feels like it's been a long time, but it's finally here. We have 8 glorious episodes to watch. Thankfully, it's on Netflix, so they drop them all together so we can binge watch to our heart's content if that's something you like to do. Let me know in the comments below. Were you excited for this, or have you tapered off like some have, not enjoying some of the science fiction because it was too fiction? I didn't mind it. Let's jump in. After a year of being trapped on a mysterious planet, Judy, Penny, Will, and the robot must lead 97 young colonists in a harrowing evacuation, but not before secrets are unearthed that will change their lives forever. If you've ever seen the series The 100, this feels like the first season of that, where the kids are on a planet, or a planet that they need to survive on because they can't survive in space anymore. It reminded me a lot of that. Obviously, there are circumstances that are different, but very much the first half of season 3 is the kids fending for themselves. They got to learn what it means to be individuals, also work as a group without adults around. They do have Robot with them, and so Robot is doing his thing and also learning what it means to be trusting one another. It's a very much a learning experience. These characters learn a lot, and obviously within those first few episodes we're going to have relationships that were already forming from season 1 and 2. It feels a bit teen angst, but it also feels very realistic with what they do in those first few episodes. So they don't lean in the relationships, it just kind of naturally is directed that way, with they being spending a year in each other's spaces and faces. Things are going to happen. But at the same time, we have the parents in space worrying about their kids, also trying to fend for themselves because there are the bad robots, right? The alien race that has been after them. That's what happened at the end of season 2. If you remember, there is that big climactic moment where the one robot actually knows Will Robinson's name. They want something from him. So that's all hanging in the air. They narrowly escaped. The kids thought they were going to go to Alpha Centauri, but that didn't quite work out, so they end on this random planet, and their parents are just trying to survive and keep the bad robots at bay. And that's what we kind of start off with. I have to say, I wish all the 3 seasons were like this. It's fast, it feels frenetic, it feels like there's tension every single episode, and it feels like there's a point to the arc rather than spacing out or really drawing out some of those episodes that we had in season 1 or 2. The backstory for the sake of backstory. There is an episode in this where we get backstory, but really feels important to what's going on in the development for the characters. It feels important to the arc, and I really like that. I feel like the pacing, it really found its footing in season 3. Can you believe that? Like, once we get there, I know people had issues with season 1 and 2. I loved the set design and the spacecraft and the fiction of it. I could put to the wayside some of the things that they did that just, it wouldn't happen, it wouldn't work that way. Like some of the science fiction, your brain, sometimes you have to go, and I know it's an excuse sometimes people use, like, oh, just switch off your brain and enjoy it for what it is. You do have to do that even in this series. There are moments where you're like, okay, that's plot protection written in for the characters. Okay, that is science fiction that I just can't quite believe. There are moments that the story is written to a way like, wow, the Swiss Family Robinson have a really hard time in their life, but at the same time they also have these things that happen. Like, what are the chances of you meeting that thing or that person that you need in that moment for things to align for you to survive? It's that sort of plot protection. So if you don't like that sort of thing, or you didn't get behind season 1 and 2, then that's not going to be for you. But for me, I felt season 3 was the strongest by far because of the character growth, because of what they set up in the first 4 episodes, that once we get to the halfway mark of the last 4, it all becomes a race for Alpha Centauri. It was always going to head towards the verses of the alien race, the robotic creatures, and what we start knowing. They really develop into kind of their history, asking those questions that we didn't know and answering them, about where they come from, why are they attacking, what's to do with world. All of those questions are answered in a very naturalistic way that is kind of flowing in the arc. And so as the story progresses, as you are on the adventure with the Robinsons, which is totally really fun because the Robinsons are doing what the Robinsons did in the original film, or from the book, when they washed up from the ocean and they had to build things to survive. You get a lot of that in this season 3, where they have to kind of pull pieces of the ship apart to get out of a thing that is threatening them. If they end up on another planet, they may have to survive certain encounters. I'm really trying hard not to talk about what they encounter, but there's a lot of fun adventure. That's exactly what I wanted from the first two. You definitely got that in the first two, but not as much as the way they've kind of written that into the story for this. I, for one, love the redemption arcs that we get. They've been starting that for the first 2 seasons, but there's definitely a couple of characters that have really great heroic moments, and they've been building on those redemption arc for the first 2 seasons. The director and the writers themselves said it was always considered to be a trilogy, so they knew they had a 3-part story. So the padding of the middle was kind of is understood now, and looking back at the first 2 seasons, now having watched the whole of the 3, it really kind of works as a whole. It even makes me want to go watch from the beginning with what I know now to see how it all kind of fits in together. It's one of the few seasons of TV series that I've watched, and when I've been watching it, I'm enjoying this so much that I kind of want to go back and watch it again, because the adventure is so great and I don't want it to end. And knowing that it's coming to an end is bittersweet, because I like a story that knows where it's going, that's not outstaying its welcome, but at the same time, if you're really enjoying each episode and you feel like as each episode ends you just want to click on to the next, that is doing a good job. So I feel like they've really finished on a really strong note. Will and his robot, their relationship progresses to where you're probably not going to guess where it's going to go, but it's always been one of the strongest points of the series for me. The robot, not really the Pinocchio story, but really trying to an entity trying to figure out his place in the universe when it's no longer with his race. He's in between races. He's definitely a fish out of water, but he's a sentient being out of place in amongst the human race and his race. And so as we see him tackling with that, he's obviously has very few words, but you get the mentality, the slight movements, the nuances of his nods, or the single words that he uses. It portrays so much what's going on with that being, and how Will and the others react around him. You're always kind of on his side, I feel. Well, we definitely were when watching it. No matter what happens, when sometimes the humans will quickly turn on him, going, it must be him, it must be his fault. You, as the audience member, I think, will naturally relate to what it is that he's doing and why he is doing it. Without doing spoilers, I think it's a fantastic journey that Will and his robot go on. So by the time you hit that big climactic ending, and it's visually spectacular with the score, really kind of going wild, because what you're seeing on screen is all the budget that they had left, and they've completed it with a big, wow, this is amazing, and it all kind of wraps up in a nice little neat bow. But this is the ending, but I'm also going to be talking about the ending in a separate video, so that might give you an idea of why would he even need to talk about it? Surely it'd be self-explanatory. Well, there is something I'd like to talk about, so look out for that video. For now, I'm going to give this a strong 4.5 Nicolas Cages out of 5. I thought the acting was great, the scripting and dialogue kept up with the tempo and the storyline that they were trying to tell this final arc, but fits as a whole in all 3 seasons. Definitely worth watching. I think you're going to love this season. Thanks so much for watching this review. Don't forget to like and subscribe, comment. It does help out the channel, and I appreciate you guys that have been with me for ages. Thanks so much. But most of all, until next time, remember, live long and Tuesday.